All right, so I'm here with Corey, Andrew, and Dave from Brimstone Coven. How are you guys doing?
Hi.
Good. Hello, hello.
Doing well, doing well.
Good, good. So how's quarantine life treating you?
What's quarantine life? I mean, we're not going like, to any large groups of places like, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Unless you're like at a protest or something like that. But I mean, so it's like, I don't know. I mean, keep your hands clean and don't go breaking my heart.
You guys are a fantastic band. I just wanted to say that outright. You've played all over the place. You have you have two kick-ass albums with Metal Blade Records, and you have a new album that you're working on right now. How do you describe your music to people that aren't familiar with you?
It's rock and roll first and foremost, with a dark, occult, themes, and I love Satan. Kind of a classic rock and roll vibe with a little bit of doom.
It's so hard to describe your own music.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, we always sums it up with the dark occult rock.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair label. You guys are really good at creating sort of a vintage sound and sort of calling back to an older style of rock and roll. So what are some of your musical influences?
I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I think Black Sabbath comes out pretty hardcore in that. But and stuff like that, like Led Zeppelin and even other bands. But the two albums that really fucking inspired me, well, maybe I should say four, but the first Graveyard album came out, and like that was like when it finally I kind of clicked that I was like that. Well, I want to do something like this, And then yeah, that album and like the first three Witchcraft albums.
Gotcha.
Just I don't know. They had like the same thing. They had that vintage vibe, sound wise, and with like kind of occulty type things going on. So Witchcraft more so than Graveyard, but still, And I don't know, lit a fire under my ass to light a fire.
Yeah.
For the devil.
So how did you guys get your start as a band? So I know you started back in 2011. So
yeah.
So how did it all begin? Like, when did you decide, like, hey, we want to put something together?
I wanted it to sound old, and I wanted it to be, dark and creepy. And when Justin was in the band, me and Justin were supposed to do this hip hop thing actually. And so yeah, we got together this night. He was going to play drums, and we got together on this night, and we were supposed to do hip hop stuff. And I was like, hey man, check out this, because I recorded this song, and then I played it for him, and he's like, oh, that's really cool, blah 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 blah. So then we just started working on that.
Okay. So Corey wrote these songs. He wrote like 5 songs. And then I think you got Justin on board.
Yeah.
And then he got John on board, but John was playing bass.
Yeah, he's supposed to play bass.
And he was looking for a vocalist, and he asked me to he gave me one of the songs, which was The Ancients.
Start to show them where to find you, and now there ain't no escape. Evil shadows lurk around you, they're here to steal your faith. Yeah.
It didn't have any words, and said, we're looking for a vocalist. I was just out of a band at that time, and I was kind of in between bands, and I was really in a mind state that I didn't want to be in a live band. I just wanted to be in like recording projects. I was just over the whole live thing at the moment. And so he's like, I know, you don't want to be in a band right now, but I've got these songs, and I'm looking for a singer. So will you at least demo and try it? And I said, yeah. And I gave it back to him and said, hey man, I did this, but I don't think I'm the right fit for it. Like it just doesn't fit to me. The song's cool though, and the music's really cool. And he's like, well, okay, I'm still looking for a singer. And I said, well, who do you have? And he told me who he had, and he mentioned John. And I was like, well, John, I'd heard John sing before. And I said, well, John's got a good voice. Why don't you get John to sing? John was playing bass. I was like, maybe I'll play bass. So that's kind of how it happened, and we just started jamming from there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Was there a reason that you weren't interested in doing live music anymore?
It was the band I was in prior was one of those bands that just, and if you've been in one of these bands too, you can relate, that never writes anything new. They get in that perpetual cycle of just preparing for shows.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we got this show coming up. We got to rehearse this set. And then you turn around and you're like, man, it's been 3 years. We haven't written or recorded anything new. This sucks. So I left that kind of sour, just because that's why I wanted to be in recording projects, because recording projects, you can just instantly create and release music, and you don't have to sit there and learn it. And you don't have to sit there and get ready for shows all the time. So I was just kind of nixed on the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, he twisted my arm and it worked out.
Still twisted.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a totally different aspect, like comparing recorded music and the recording process and live music, you know, because when you're doing shows, it's like you are like you just need to fill space. But it's like when you're recording music, it's an artistic process, you know, like it's you know, very two different aspects of being a musician.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I can understand that. Sometimes I just want to create stuff, and I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to deal with being out there. But I will.
Well, and I would, you know, I think that you guys, I think that there's two types of bands, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but I think that there's bands that are like studio bands that like sound awesome on a recording. Then you go see them live, and you're like, yeah, that's cool. I'd rather listen to the record though. Mm-hmm. And then there are bands that are the opposite, that are live bands. And I consider you guys a live band, you know. Well, you know, it's one of the other, you know, your recordings are awesome and I like listening to them, but I would much rather be in front of you watching you play it live. I think we're the same kind of band.
Yeah, first of all, that's a huge compliment. And because I'm the most self-conscious live performer ever. Like every single show I do, I think it sucks. And I just want to record, you know? And
well, you're your own worst critic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all are as musicians, but
that's good. That just means you're still growing. You know,
yeah,
that's a sign of growth.
Yeah, and I will say with you guys, you're right. You are totally excelling as a live band, and I would say that you're like the way that you perform live. It sounds as clean as a record. Like you guys sound like you nail it. You nail it as if, you know, I'm listening to a recording. And you're by far one of the tightest live bands I've seen. Like it's really kind of it makes me, yeah. This is like an ass kissing fest right now. I apologize.
I mean, and I don't think it's arrogant to say, but I think that we're a better live band than we are on tape. Basically.
Really? That's
I do, yeah. I just, like I said, I think that there's live bands and studio bands, and I think we're a live band. I don't think we suck on tape. I don't think you suck on tape, but if given the choice, I think we shine more live than we do on a recording.
So I want to ask a question about vocal harmonies, because you guys implement a lot of vocal harmonies in your music, and it's like on the recordings, it's a really strong aspect. Come forth and join our sacred rites. We do not feel this void of life. When I watch you guys live, you nail these really cool vocal harmonies, and I'm wondering where did the inspiration for that come, as far as like wanting that to be sort of a staple in your music?
Like, I mean, fucking Seven Bridges Road by the Eagles, you know, Alice in Chains, obviously, you know, stuff like that. And just, you know, it's funny because my mom used to like walk around, well, she still does, but like she walks around and if there's some fucking kind of music playing, she is one of those people that will not sing the fucking melody. She's always singing a harmony. And when I was younger, it used to really annoy the fuck out of me. I'd be like, that's not how that song goes. She'd be like, yes, it is. You just don't know nothing about harmonies, blah, 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 blah. But as I got older, I was like, now I do the same fucking thing, you know, but like, you know, I'm cooler than my mom. So
yeah. So So it was Corey's mom's idea to write harmonies in your music.
Yes. Yes, my mom is responsible for that. She's also responsible for 9/11 and a couple other things that I don't want to talk about right now.
Yeah, no,
Thanks a
no.
lot, Mama.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, just, I definitely knew that I wanted to hear, multiple harmonies over these doomy sounding riffs and shit,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So I think it was just like a must, really. I didn't want to hear it any other way.
It's just kind of a lost art, really.
Yeah.
It's something that was like commonplace in 70s music and early 80s music, and it just, once it got into the 90s, it kind of faded away.
Yeah.
And yeah, for what reason, I have no idea.
It's all these freaking lead singers, the David Lee Roths and the Brett Michaelses of the world.
I love David Lee Roth.
They didn't want to share no
I love Brett
spotlight with anybody.
Well, I think maybe nowadays it's more special to have members in the band that could play an instrument and have the ability to sing and have the ability to understand the concept of harmonies
Yeah.
and to be able to contribute to them intelligently and not just do an octave or blindly follow in unison whatever the lead vocal's doing,
It definitely feels like it's something that older bands excelled at much more than nowadays. I mean, you guys would know better than me, but
Right.
yeah.
We're like 1,000 years older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was saying. But
I know that's what you were alluding to. I understand.
how do you guys approach songwriting currently? Like as far as from instrumentals all the way to vocals?
It's pretty much the same as it's ever been.
Yeah.
He's the sole songwriter, and he'll demo stuff and he'll demo everything. He'll hand us a complete song that he recorded the guitars, the bass, the drums, the vocals for complete, and hand it to us and say, here's a song. Let's start jamming it. And if you hear anything different you want to change, let's change it. And, I don't know about Dave, but 9 times out of 10, I'm like, this is perfect. I can't think of anything that complements it better. So
Oh yeah.
we just end up replicating basically what he did. I mean, we'll throw in a few things here and there.
Yeah.
But it's minimal. At its core, it's what was in his head originally. So I kind of think about that too. Like, well, he wrote this stuff for a reason. He wrote it this way for a reason.
That's the way I heard it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And, like I said, I can't think of anything that I think would complement it better. So, yeah.
That's a very musical and like humble way of approaching songwriting, because I feel like a lot of songwriters or a lot of bands, like collectively, everyone wants to throw in shit that really detracts from the song, like in a lot of different bands, and then ends
Put
up
their own identity and their own ego into it.
yeah, and really it's we're trying to make really awesome music, and that's what it's about, and that's a really cool mindset that you guys have, that it's like, okay, we like this song, let's just serve the song and not try to jerk ourselves off in the process.
You're right. It's really tough it's special, I guess, maybe, to be in a band where someone's, I don't know. Yeah, I would love one. Willing to, it's not even putting your ego aside, really, because you're still getting to play awesome music. You're still getting to play intelligent stuff that you need ability to play. You may not have wrote it. Who gives a shit about that? You know? I mean, I'm just, I love what he writes, and I feel honored to play it, So, and if he handed me the song without a bass line, I could tell you with all confidence, I would not come up with something as cool as what he would come up with. So, as much as, I think every musician has ego to a point. Come on, we're musicians. Every musician has an ego to a point, but I don't have so much ego that I could say, well, if I wrote this bass line, it would be better,
Yeah.
That's stupid to say. And it would be untrue, I mean,
Yeah.
I know for sure what he wrote's kick ass. I'm just going to play that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get all the glory for it.
I do not hear a lot of musicians say that. That's really cool,
I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, I think that's how Dave feels.
I wouldn't change a thing. I don't change a thing.
I think, you know, the way we write or the way he writes, you kind of have to be that way. But again, you know, I'm just thrilled to be a part of it in any capacity, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to get into your discography. So I went through your whole discography that's on Bandcamp. So I went through Brimstone Coven, self-titled. I went through Black Magic, and I went through What Was and What Shall Be. And first of all, I love going through all of your stuff. Your music is so kick-ass. And I wanted to start with Brimstone Coven, the self-titled. So what was the process like of making that album?
The self-titled on Metal Blade really is kind of weird and backwards chronologically, because there's a group of songs, and then I'm sure if you listen to it front to back, you'll realize that the last 5 songs sound significantly different, because the last 5 songs were our very first demo, tagged on to this full length that we did in 2014. And when we got signed, the label just wanted to put both those recordings together because they liked all of it. And we thought, well, it would be dumb to put the old stuff first. We need to put the new stuff first and put the old stuff at the end as like bonus material. So those last songs, had we known that the world was going to hear them, well, I'm sure we probably would have done them differently, because we were just trying to do a demo to get our stuff out. We recorded it. Did we do it all on tape?
I think so. Yeah, the first one.
I think we did that. Those last 5 songs were all on a 4-track, like tape.
Yeah, and I mean, both of those, like technically, you know, like you said, that was the first album. Like that one, and then the main part of the self-titled, which to us was 2. We put those both out ourselves, like before Metal Blade even got a hold of it. You know what I mean? Like we just self-released them. But then, you know, when they signed us and they wanted to put them together as one thing. So.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of weird, because for a while we thought, or at least he thought, and I like the idea of not every time you come out with an album, don't really give it a title and just name it chronologically, like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we got signed, that totally fucked that concept up. Those main songs on the self-titled, the ones that you hear, were with a different drummer. And it was really strange the way all that went down too. The way we recorded it was a little unorthodox for us too. It came out a lot cleaner than what we maybe wanted to do it. So that's why now we're taking some of those songs and we're re-recording them kind of the way we wanted to originally.
Moving on to Black Magic. So around this time, you had a previous vocalist on the self-titled EP, and around this time you were kind of moving, transitioning between him and then you guys both doing vocals. And was this also this time that, so around this time, Dave transitioned into being the drummer, right?
Right after the album came out, basically.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
It wasn't long after. That album got released in January of 2016, I think. And by midway through 2017, we were a 3-piece at that point with Dave.
Gotcha.
And I was doing some fill-in work probably 6 months prior to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's been kind of a roller coaster when you think about it.
Yeah, but even when we had, you know, like even we had the first couple albums and we had a lead singer, like we were still doing vocals then too.
Oh yeah.
Like he didn't do all the vocals or anything.
No, we shared vocals from day one, but it was always him doing the lead vocal.
Yeah.
And we always did second and third harmonies with him. So it wasn't a crazy transition, but I was genuinely frightened when that happened, because I feel that when you change vocalists or lose a vocalist in the band, you kind of lose the identity of the band.
I mean, even we played the first show we played as a 3-piece was we opened for Yuli John Roth in Chicago.
Yep.
And these two took over lead vocals and got a really good response to it.
I will say, you guys kill as a 3-piece. Like, I never saw you guys live before, obviously, when you were a four-piece, but I mean, just as a three-piece, it just is such a tight unit where all of you are filling out, like, you know, your necessary musical roles, and like it just with the vocal harmonies, I mean, with Dave's drumming, like everything's just super locked in. So I mean, I think you're doing exactly what you should be doing, in my opinion. But
well, thanks, man. I mean, I think we're stronger for it.
I'm gonna jump into songs and talking about like specific details in songs, and so I'm gonna move kind of quickly through them.
Okay.
With Black Unicorn. Where did the idea for that come from? Like, what is it referring to something specific, or was it just something that you thought was a cool idea and came up with?
You're referencing one of the few times that he didn't write lyrics. That was one of the only times that I wrote lyrics.
I wasn't able to.
That song was incomplete. He gave me a demo CD of all these songs, and that song was at the very end. It wasn't finished. It was like maybe like a 2-minute blurb of a demo with no vocals on it. And man, I fell in love with that very first riff and that weird timing of the and I heard a vocal pattern immediately, and I remember asking him, like, what are you going to do with that? He's like, I don't know. I have to just put it on there because I don't know what to do with it. I'm like, I know what to do with it. So I demoed it, and then it turned into a song. John sang it on Black Magic, but now that we're a three-piece, I sing it just because I wrote the vocals. But that's like one of the only times.
Gotcha. Like, was it just something a cool idea with that you came up with on the fly, or
just made me realize that I totally didn't answer your question at all. I just went off on a tangent. No, I don't. I got to be honest, Christian. I don't remember coming up with the concept of a black unicorn. I just remember hearing I just remember hearing like the cadence of the words black unicorn in the chorus, and I don't know, somehow Black Unicorn came to me, and that's what molded the lyrics from that point on. I finished the words around it. Let me say this. There's a little fun fact about that song. I run a tattoo shop, so I have a lot of really nice tattoos. One of the tattoos that I have is not really nice. I only have a few tattoos that aren't really nice, and one of them I have is of a black unicorn.
Corey, did you write Beyond the Astral?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's that about? The lyrics to that are really fascinating, and I know it's like about astral projection, but is it about anything specific?
There was like a time when I was trying like doing like trying to do lucid dreaming and stuff like that, and try to become aware of myself in my dreams and shit like that. Mm-hmm. 'Cause it's a whole process. You can do that shit, but you have to like work on it for a long time. And I'm not real good at being patient about things. But yeah, I mean, I kind of like looking at it from like, you know, like the first, you know, way down below us, the earth is dark and cold. I just, you know, well, at that point you are in the plane, you know, looking down on the world. And I mean, I don't know. I was projecting astrally.
I think if I remember correctly, the demo was titled "A Pee on the Asshole."
I couldn't do the actual extra projection, so what I did was I went and bought this thing off the internet called the Astral Rascal, and it's like this little scooter thing that you can go through. It gets you there faster.
Or
It's like it's like a metaphysical hover round, if you will.
that sounded completely insane, but that was fascinating.
That's why we're here.
Also, in this song, there's like kind of a cool drum breakdown. I know you didn't record that, right, Dave?
No.
No,
I did not.
Yeah, but it made me think, because you're a drummer that I really respect, because like the stuff that you do, you're not always playing these like drum solos and crazy shit. Like you just lock in, and you're one of the tightest drummers that I've seen live, just because like you can really lock in. Yeah, man. Like you can lock in and just click with the music. And so I'm wondering, what are some of your drum inspirations, if you had to pick some?
Well, and I think that's why I fit so well with these guys, John Bonham. I mean, even ever since I started playing drums when I was 21, and really got into music at around that age too. And John Bonham was kind of the first one that I really gravitated to, Led Zeppelin, and even joining Brimstone kind of has that, that Led Zeppelin kind of feel to it in some parts. And I think that's why I was a good fit. I mean, I was always a huge Keith Moon fan, but that's a hard thing to replicate. But Bill Ward, obviously, too. Bill Ward plays with such – he has a lot of feel and a lot of a lot of soul to it, and the dynamics too. And that was one thing. You go see drummers, and everybody just tries to beat the crap out of the drums, and it really takes somebody to have some feel. And that was one thing too. Even just teaching myself how to drum was learning dynamics and when to really bring a song in and when to fade it out too. So
yeah,
I don't know if that answered your question, but
no, it totally did.
Okay.
It's a lot of I feel like it's kind of a lost art now, that a lot of drummers just want to be extremely flashy, and then you don't often see people that just want to lock in, and that's their focus, and it's like but yeah, I wish that more drummers would be considerate of that. Like, hey, you got to keep good time, you got to lock in with the nuance of the music, all that stuff. So
right. Well, and it's easy for me too, playing with these guys. I mean, I think I take a backseat to that, because these guys are just incredible musicians, incredible singers all around, and just been privileged. And it's made me a better drummer too, playing with these guys. So
It's like
they make it easy.
It's like you said earlier, it's about serving the song.
mm-hmm.
It's not about check out my musical boner.
I have a question about the song Slow Death.
Oh, you kill so slow. I'll never know just how you're killing me. Just let me go.
So is that like throwing shade at a girl, like specifically?
I think I said we needed an evil woman song.
Well, I'd written the music again. That was another one of those ones where I was having trouble, because it's so like the more rock and rolly songs, I have a little more trouble writing, because I'm always in a dark place when I'm like trying to write lyrics.
Yeah.
So if the song's not like super dark, then I have a hard time like locking in to an atmosphere or whatever that serves what I'm trying to get across. But Andrew was like, he's like, because I think I said something to him about, doing the vocals or the lyrics for it. And he's like, just fucking write a song about some evil woman or something. And I was like,
every rock band has a song about an evil woman.
yeah. At that point, I hadn't written a song about a female for a long, long time. And I never had written a song about a female in a bad light.
Yeah.
It was always like, You know,
I mean, every
So-
well, I would say
but I
every,
quit doing that at a point because I was like, that's
I would say every straight guy can relate to that concept. Every straight guy has had a woman who has turned your brain inside out, right? And basically been the devil to you. Like you love her and hate her at the same time, you know. That's rock and roll.
Speaking of like lyrics and stuff, obviously you guys have a fascination with like the occult and evil shit. So it's like, where does that originate, and what made you decide that that's going to be like a major theme of your music?
Well, I mean, I think for me, like before I was even alive, my mother and my grandmother practiced black magic and witchcraft and was into some weird shit. And whether they wanted it to or not, it carried over. You know, they carried it with them, even though in some of their practices, they got into stuff that at one point scared them so badly that they flip-flopped and became very devout Christians. But there was still an air that stuck around. And, you know, I think it had a lot to do with maybe my mother's drug use and stuff like that before, because she tripped on acid a lot and mescaline and shit like that before I was even born, you know. But like, I mean, she grew up in the fucking 60s and 70s, you know what I mean? Like, so that and the music that they were listening to, you know, shit like that. But just like, and then the house that I grew up in was like just weird shit. It was a really old house. It was built in 1824. And it had, you know, confirmed deaths, the people that died in it. And
Weird mojo.
just, yeah, dude, I just always had this fucking monkey on my
Air
back
about
with the
it.
creepy shit, man. I just always, like, I was born into some kind of weird shit that I couldn't control. And I love it. I mean, I don't have any problem with it. It's basically, I've been into it since I was old enough to even know that something was, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it definitely, because it was so prominent in my life, you know, just it's such a driving force just in me as a person. It's definitely, there was no way that it wasn't going to be like that lyrically.
And let's be honest, it's an endless wellspring for
Right.
lyrics, right?
Yeah. Lyrically and atmospherically. Oh, you like that?
Yeah,
I'm
I do.
rapping at you, son.
That's really cool though, because there's a lot of bands that try to do the Satan thing and the evil, you know, culty stuff, and they don't have any relationship to it. But that's interesting that like you actually had a little evil baptism, you know, growing up.
Yeah.
All right, I want to talk about what was and what shall be. So where did the name come from for that?
It was kind of like, for me, it was kind of like, you know, basically just what it was. You know, we had this transition, all these things happened. You know, John and Justin were no longer in the band. We got Dave. All this change is going on. You know, we weren't on the label anymore. You know, just all this shit. There's so much transition going on, and it really, I mean, honestly, I feel like we came out of that whole thing so unscathed because we were just prepared for it beforehand. Like, we just thought that it was a possibility that something like that would happen. Because this guy's always on that stuff anyway. He's always thinking before shit, you know what I mean? So he's always kind of got a plan. And, you know, we had talked about that stuff, but like, it was just kind of like, well, that's what we were. And now we're going to be something completely different. You know, we're going to 3-piece and all this shit changed. And that's basically, that's what it was and what it's going to be.
Talking about songs specifically, I want to talk about Low. So in the song Low, in the middle section, there's this kind of interesting rhythmic pattern. Like it's in 4/4, but it goes like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. So Dave, as far as like weird rhythmic phrasing, do you think of it in terms of like meter, or are you just basing it on feel, you know?
I do a lot of it on feel. If I'm struggling with the feel, then I'll try to count and, you know, kind of see how things go. But 9 times out of 10, it's feel. And
Gotcha.
when I first started playing drums, that pattern, that like a 3/4 was kind of tough for me to catch on to, because my brain just always thought in 4/4 all the time.
We all three like operate on feel, I think, very strongly. I mean, I definitely musically, but I mean, even for me, like you know, when I skate, like when I'm skateboarding, like I don't pay attention to where my feet are going to land on a trick. I don't look, and I don't spot my landing when I'm skating. Like I just feel it, and it comes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, and you bring up an interesting point, because I never really thought about it. I've always thought of that riff as a 4/4 beat.
I want to talk about writing really catchy riffs and the role that plays in your music, because like throughout your whole discography, Corey, you write these really cool like ear hooks, you know? Like these really cool catchy guitar riffs. And I wanted to ask you, what's your thought on writing music that's catchy versus writing music that's like overly complicated, you know, because there's a lot of like metal bands that are trying to write music that's like really technical, and they, you know, end up losing anything that's relatable. So I just wonder, what's your thought on writing like really catchy music?
Well, I mean, like me and Andrew for sure. I mean, we've even been in bands together that were incredibly just technical and progressive. Yeah, like, and it's just like, I personally, when something is like so technical or challenging to play, I don't have fun. I don't have fun doing it. Like, I mean, and it is a bit of a like a, you know, like a look at my fucking musical boner. And I feel like, you know, at this point we've just like outgrown that. I just like, when I'm jamming out, like I'll, you know, cause you write riffs, you write hundreds of fucking riffs, and you're just like, you could be jamming out and like you jam on something for a second and you'll be like, oh man, that's awesome. You know, and then you play it a little bit longer and you're just like, yeah, it's not as good as I thought. And then you just kind of let it go. But like the ones that are like, when you're fucking writing a riff and you really fucking feel that, then like you just keep doing it. And then you record it like on your phone or whatever, so you don't forget it. And because I mean, if it's catching you, then it's a good chance it's going to catch somebody else. And but being simple and simplistic, I mean, you can even write cool riffs and still be not super tech, you know?
Yeah.
The best riffs are that way.
Yeah, just phrasing in a different way, or thinking about it a different way, or even where the downbeat's going to fall on a particular note or something, you know what I mean? Like, can change so much. So, but yeah, when it comes to like actually like writing like progressive technical stuff, like, I don't know, dude, we're just, and I'm not saying it's not cool. I'm just saying we've outgrown it because, well, I think we're just too old and too,
You may say that. I say it's an art form in and of itself.
we can still do it if we wanted to.
No, I think it's something that either you have or you don't. I mean, he's got it, and like I know a handful of other musicians that do that. Will let me hear like, oh, hey, I'm working on this new song. Check it out, and it'll be this riff, and you're like, it's so elementary that you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how has that not been thought of a million times before? But it hasn't, and it's incredibly catchy, and it sticks in your head like glue. It's an art form in and of itself to come up with a simple riff that sticks in your head.
Yeah.
That hasn't been done, you know. And that has nothing to do with technical prowess. It has nothing to do with ability. That it isn't an ability in and of itself. That has nothing to do with technical skill, if you will.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And it's hard too. like it's hard to write
I
something.
think it's the hardest thing in the world, dude. I really do.
Yeah, because you can practice your ass off and try to write something that's really technical. But I mean, if you just are trying to write something that people remember, I mean, you know, some people
that hasn't been done.
Yeah, some people can't
that's
do
the
it.
challenge.
Yeah, it's a gift, and it's so cool that in your music, like each song has these catchy riffs that really hook you in. You know, I have one more question that I want to ask. So, and this is for Corey again. So, like in a lot of these songs, you have these really sort of tasteful guitar solos. And I was wondering, what are some of your guitar influences, and do you have like a specific philosophy to how to approach solos in your songs?
I mean, for the first part, like, I mean, Tony Iommi is definitely a very prominent influence. And then the best guitar player in the entire world ever, Jimi Hendrix. You know, I don't, you know, you can debate that all you want, but ain't nobody ever made a fucking guitar sound like Jimi Hendrix did. Like nobody.
Truth.
It's just, that dude did some amazing, just amazing fucking things. So those, you know, those are definitely like probably the two main really, but when it comes to like, how I do my solos, man, honestly, a lot of them, I just hear them in my head before they're even, you know, some stuff I'll do like, you know, I'll build it, or a lot of stuff I'll just ad lib, you know, when I'm recording, I'll just like get all fucking stoned and rip like ad lib solos. And a lot of 9 times out of 10, man, I keep a lot of the shit that I just came up with that like off the top of the head. And then I'll just build on that and make it better and clean up the little pieces or whatever, you know, but some solos, man, they fucking are in my head. I hear them before I even play them. It's kind of like you hear a song and you're like, oh, that's cool. I want to figure it out. And so, you know, you just listen to it and then learn it by ear. I basically like essentially do that just by hearing shit in my own head.
So you guys are working on a new album. What can you mention about that? Like what information could you talk about?
It's done.
It's done?
It's done. It's getting released in August on Ripple Music. And
they have it already.
They have it, yeah. We haven't started the quote unquote hype engine for it yet, which given that it's the release is 2 months away, normally we would have started that already, but I think given the current climate that everyone's kind of so stagnant right now, I think it's okay. And I think if we have 6 to 8 weeks of promotion for the new album, it's still going to be fine. So I don't know when this is going to broadcast or whatever, but I could say confidently, probably within the next few weeks, you're going to start seeing lyric videos and stuff come out and hyping up the new record.
Wow. I didn't know that. So we're going to get some new Brimstone stuff soon.
Oh yeah. We worked hard this winter, well before COVID-19 hit. And it was actually in the label's hands, I think right before COVID-19 hit. So, but yeah, they have everything in hand. The manufacturing process has begun, and they're saying in August release. We don't have like an official date yet, but sometime in August.
Is there, as far as like directions, how would you kind of describe the new music? Like,
I would say dark. It's definitely the darkest thing that I think we've ever done.
Wow. Like
it's very morose. It's very depressing, but I don't know about you, but like depressing to me is good. I relate to depressing music because I'm a really positive person. And I think that listening to depressing music is kind of cathartic to me, and it gets out all the negativity and lets me be a positive person. But yeah, there's not much happiness in this new stuff at all, but it's in a good way. Everything is cohesive and complements each other. I think all the songs belong together. I think it's a cohesive body of music. It's not on paper. It doesn't look like a lot because it's only 6 songs, but the songs are the longest songs that we've ever written. So volume lengthwise, it is a full length album, but there's less songs that are just longer.
How long does it get? How long does it get, like song wise?
Oh, I don't
The
know.
longest one's like 7 minutes and 30.
Yeah,
seconds.
there's 7+ minute songs in there. And it's, like I said, it's an average full length. I think it's 45 minutes or something, but it's 45 minutes of 6 songs. Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. I'm excited for the new Brimstone stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like there's a couple songs that are kind of like in the vein of like The Road.
There's a fork in the road. There's a question inside your mind.
Yeah, the whole atmosphere is
Pretty dark.
dark, and but it fits. Like the whole thing.
The songs are more epic, probably.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
they got
that's
like
a
more
good word.
parts in them and stuff like that.
Yep.
They're not, they're not real simplistic. They're not as simplistic as usual. Probably like more along the lines of like, Be on the Astral and The Road and shit like that with extra parts and,
Gotcha.
journeys. We take you on journeys. So
So that about wraps it up. Is there anything you guys want to promote right now? I know you're in a bunch of different groups besides Brimstone Coven. So is there anything you want to promote, including those other projects?
Dave?
Well, right now my band Gossamer is we're working on some new material, hoping to get into the studio. We were hoping for this spring, probably with everything going on, taking some time off, kind of getting back to it now. We have some new material written, trying to decide if we want to do kind of like a same demo kind of deal like we did with our last release, or if we want to try to go full length. So hoping to try to get some stuff here recorded by the summer and have a release maybe 2 by the end of the year. Kind of just going to see what's going on.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah. I actually am playing drums in that's I guess you call it like a stoner doom kind of band. It's called Left Hand Hymns, like HYMNS. And it's just kind of like a like a stoner rocky doomy kind of dark, kind of creepy, cool shit, you know what I mean?
Cool.
Yeah, and it's on we're on Facebook, I guess, and we might have a website or something like that, but I mean, we're still we've only
I
played
think we're on the internet.
yeah, well, I mean, we're still working on recordings and stuff, and we've only had one show out, before COVID and all that shit, so we're still, but we rehearse regularly, and we're ready to play shows and all that shit. It's just, here we are with all this nonsense going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the Mighty Iron Flame.
I have a traditional heavy metal band called Iron Flame, and we're 3 albums deep. We just put an album out in February, and I sing in another more traditional band called Icarus Witch. That's more like, it's traditional heavy metal, and it's also like hard rock AOR type stuff. Journey meets Queensryche type stuff.
Cool.
And we're demoing new stuff right now, so I think you're probably going to see a new album from Icarus Witch by maybe the beginning of 2021. And like I said, Iron Flame released an album in February, and we're pushing that right now.
Awesome. Well, fuck yeah, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. I hope that we can all tour again together soon. And,
Yeah, let's do that.
yeah,
Right.
fuck COVID. And,
Yeah.
let's get back to playing shows again,
Yes,
Fuck yes.
please.
Fuck yeah. All right. Take care, guys.
Hey, thanks for
man.
having us.
You too.
The gods of time